Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to peel back the layers of something we see every day and reveal a shocking, almost horrifying truth. We're talking about the US dollar. Have you ever stopped to wonder how a simple, fragile piece of paper can command so much power? Why it can buy almost anything, anywhere in the world? Or why nations are willing to go to war, to shed blood just to protect a currency? The story of the US dollar doesn't start in a pristine bank vault. It wasn't born in an era of peace and prosperity. No, its story begins amidst the thunder of cannons, the shadow of crushing debt, and the raw desperation of a young nation fighting for its very survival. Let's rewind to the year 1775. America, as we know it, didn't exist yet. It was a collection of colonies, poor and struggling under the thumb of the mighty British Empire. They yearned for independence, for freedom, but freedom isn't free. It requires guns, it requires an army, and all of that requires money. Money that the fledgling colonies simply did not have. So what did they do? In an act of bold defiance, they did something radical. They printed their own money. There was no gold backing it, no silver reserves, no collateral whatsoever. Just freshly printed banknotes bearing a proud name, the Continental Dollar, the very first ancestor of the US dollar we use today. The spirit of the time was revolutionary. People believed in the cause. They thought, we are fighting for freedom, for liberty. So this currency, our currency, must have value. It was a currency born of pure faith and patriotic fervor. But as the war raged on, a brutal reality began to set in. Belief, as powerful as it is, cannot pay soldiers. It cannot buy gunpowder. And it certainly cannot replace the grim ledger of blood and debt. The Revolutionary War dragged on far longer than anyone had anticipated. And with each passing month, the printing presses churned out more and more money. Round after round of new banknotes flooded the economy. There was no control, no backing, just a single, unifying fear that gripped the leaders. If we stop printing money, we lose the war. It was a desperate gamble for survival. And what happened next was a catastrophe. The value of the Continental Dollar plummeted faster than soldiers fell on the battlefield. It was a terrifying spiral of hyperinflation. A loaf of bread that cost a few cents one day would cost 10 times that the next. People would hold fistfuls of money, stacks of these so-called dollars, only to find they couldn't even buy basic necessities. Their savings, their livelihoods, turned to worthless paper overnight. A cold, hard truth began to dawn on the American people. This currency, which was supposed to be a symbol of their fight for freedom, was born from the chaos of war, and now it was sucking the very lifeblood from its own people. A bitter, cynical phrase started making the rounds, saying that perfectly captured the despair of the era. Not worth a continental. Imagine that. Your nation's currency, the symbol of your independence, had become a punchline, synonym for worthless. Doesn't that just send a shiver down your spine? A currency representing hope had become a symbol of collapsed trust and economic ruin. But the story, of course, doesn't end there in failure. From the smoldering ashes of the Continental, America learned a painful but vital lesson, a lesson etched in economic suffering. To have a strong currency, you must have control over debt. And to have a trustworthy currency, you must have a government with real power and authority. And from that harsh lesson, the United States dollar was eventually reborn. It came back stronger, more disciplined, and yes, far more calculating. But its origin story, its DNA, remains forever tied to that brutal beginning. It was forged in the fires of war and paid for with a mountain of blood debt. So today, the next time you hold a dollar bill in your hand, take a moment to really look at it. Ask yourself, why does the entire world place its trust in this piece of paper? How did it become the currency that can buy oil, weapons, influence, and even broker peace and ignite wars? Man, perhaps the most important question of all, how much sacrifice? How much conflict? How much blood was spilled over the centuries to give that simple piece of paper the immense value it holds today? The US dollar isn't just an inanimate object, it's a living product of human history, of choices made in moments of desperation and ambition. Its story serves as a stark reminder that any currency born from war will always carry the price of that conflict, the weight of that blood, and the burden of that debt. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the dark origins of the US dollar. I hope it gave you a new perspective. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me create more content like this for you. We'll see you in the next video.